That was the sum and substance of the amendment, a date change that had budgetary impact in it. We were not creating new categories of immigration. We were not creating any new laws other than the date change. I want to say to all of the dreamers and immigrants and all of the mixed status families who are desperately following this situation, we're not giving up, and you shouldn't give up either. America needs you, and I'll keep my promise to keep working on this as long as it's my honor to serve in the Senate. On another matter, Madam President, I can remember when certainty was the Republican refrain on tax cuts and the economy. They used to say businesses and families need certainty. That's what Republicans used to say when they wanted to pass more tax cuts for wealthy people. American businesses can't invest or hire new workers, and American families couldn't plan for their future without certainty. We heard that repeatedly on the Republican side of the aisle. Now it's a radically different message. Instead of preaching the gospel of certainty, as they used to, Senator McConnell and today's Republicans are threatening to deliberately, cynically, recklessly push America toward an economic cataclysm. We are less than 3 weeks away from a default on our national debt, and that has never happened in history, a default on our debt. 14 hours away from a government shutdown. Later today, this Senate is expected to vote on a clean continuing resolution. If it passes, we can keep the federal government functioning until December 3rd. And we obviously should do that in the midst of a pandemic with all of the things that are threatening America. We expect that the CR will also include emergency funding, as it should, to assist with recovery from Hurricane Ida in Louisiana and the Gulf Coast, and wildfires in western states, and to help Afghans who aided us in the longest war in our history resettle in America. Even the threat of a government shutdown costs taxpayers money. It damages the economy, and it undermines confidence in America's future. If reason and responsibility prevail, the continuing resolution will pass, and the threat of a government shutdown will be off the table for now. But that CR will do nothing to resolve the far greater threat to our economy, the looming potential default on the national debt. Madam President, the Democratic leader of the Senate, Chuck Schumer of New York, came to the floor the day before yesterday, I believe it was, and said to the Republican leader, if you don't want to cast any Republican votes to establish and recognize the debt ceiling, the Democrats will vote for it. Step out of the way. Let us take the responsibility for doing the right thing. Senator McConnell objected. He wants it to happen. He wants the threat to be there. But it creates the uncertainty which they used to decry in their Republican leadership days. This is a manufactured crisis, ginned up by Republicans to score political points. The harm to the U.S. and global economies would be cataclysmic. Here in the United States, respected economists warn us the results would trigger a painful recession, the opposite of what we need at this moment in history. The loss of more than 6 million American jobs. How can that be good for the nation? And 9% unemployment. We would likely see a broad sell-off in the markets, which takes a big hit on Americans' retirement savings. Interest rates could spike. Not only does that affect American consumers and businesses, but it affects our government. We'll be paying a higher interest rate, so taxes won't be spent on highways. They'll be given to banks and companies and countries that are buying our debt. For working families, higher interest rates would mean bigger monthly payments on your mortgage, car loans, credit cards. For the federal government, higher interest rates would result in larger deficits and even a larger national debt. Think about that. Republicans are threatening to default on America's national debt because they say they're worried about deficits and debt. And defaulting on our national debt will make both worse. Because we've never been through a default, it's hard to know exactly what payments the government will have to stop immediately and which payments might continue for a while. I don't want to sow seeds of fear across America or panic, but we've got to be honest and realistic. If we don't establish and recognize the national debt of this country, it'll be the first time in history. Some of the payments that are at risk in my state of Illinois and my nearby state of Kentucky are obvious. More than 1.3 million families in Illinois and more than 500,000 families in Kentucky could see their child tax credits delayed. Nearly 600,000 veterans in Illinois and nearly 300,000 veterans in Kentucky could see their benefits delayed. That includes disability payments, VA pensions, education benefits, loan guarantees, and other benefits that veterans have earned with their service and sacrifice. Seniors would be hurt. Almost 2.8 million seniors in Illinois and more than 1 million in Kentucky would see their Social Security checks threatened. Defaulting on our national debt could trigger a global financial crisis. It would squander one of our nation's most valuable economic assets. Trust by investors that America pays its bill and keeps its word would be at risk. The U.S. dollar could lose its valuable place as the world's primary currency. That would be a gift to our competitors in China. American families and businesses are still struggling from financial devastation caused by the coronavirus. The crisis threatening America today is being manufactured right here in the Senate by politicians who believe cynically that it will help them politically to default on America's debt. Haven't the institutions of this great nation suffered enough? 10 months ago, an angry man, enraged over losing an election, summoned a mob to attack this Capitol building on January 6th and try to overturn a presidential election. And now that former president's party is refusing to do its part to avoid a default on our national debt. Let's be clear about why Congress needs to address the debt limit. Addressing this debt limit allows Congress to continue to borrow money to pay for expenses that have already been incurred. This measure that we are talking about, the acknowledgement of our debt ceiling, is to pay the debts of the Trump administration. The national debt of America increased by 36% under President Trump in one 4-year period of time. We are taking recognition of the fact that that money was spent and has to be paid for. 97% of the total federal debt occurred before Joe Biden became president. This is debt that was built up under presidents and congressional majorities in both parties. As I said, $8 billion, nearly a third of the entire debt, was added under Donald Trump with the support of the same Republican senators who will not acknowledge that that is now part of our responsibility. Now Senator McConnell and his Republican colleagues are playing a verbal shell game, claiming falsely that we need to address the debt limit to pay for future spending. That is not true, and they know it. If this Congress had not spent a penny since Joe Biden took office, we would still have to deal with the debt limit to pay for the Trump bills he left behind. Democrats have offered proposals twice this week. On Monday, Senator Schumer offered a proposal that dealt with the debt limit. It included a CR to prevent a government shutdown and provided emergency aid, which is needed for the victims of Hurricane Ida, wildfires, and resettlement of Afghan refugees. The Republicans used the filibuster to stop it. On Tuesday, Leader Schumer offered a proposal to allow the Senate to address the debt limit with just a majority vote. Senator McConnell objected. Not only are Republicans refusing to help pay the debt incurred under presidents of both parties, they're making it as difficult as possible for Democrats to address the debt limit in a responsible way. Defaulting on this debt would be the ultimate dine and dash. It would be grave, self-inflicted wound that would harm innocent Americans for decades. Our Republican colleagues used to preach the gospel of economic certainty. The only thing certain about defaulting on our national debt is that it would be ruinous to our economy, and it's a responsibility both parties should want to avoid. Mr. President, I yield the floor.